Hi everybody, happy Monday. Frankie B here from Same Day Restoration. Today we have Bret with us from ERI Abatement. He's going to run us through what his world looks like. So welcome back. Today we've got Bret Vandersnook with us today from ERI Abatement, and he's going to kind of run us through some of the things he sees on a day-to-day basis. Just to preface here, we do have some construction work going on in our building, so if we hear some odd sounds and some hammering and some pounding, please pardon us for that. So anyway, moving forward. So Bret, tell us about how you got involved with this industry and something about ERI.
Good morning, yeah. So actually, two of my close buddies are the owners of Environmental Remedies, so that's how I personally got involved. Environmental Remedies has been around for about 18 years. We started up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, and then just recently came down to San Diego to get our branch started down here.
All right, excellent. So what were you doing before you got into the abatement industry?
So I actually, my father and I had a retractable screen business that we did together.
Okay.
So kind of a different turn, but
you're still hammering stuff.
Still kind of construction industry based, yeah.
So kind of tied in a little bit there.
Yeah.
So what is asbestos? Help our viewers understand what exactly this dangerous material is.
Sure. So asbestos actually gets mined from rocks, and the main type of asbestos called chrysotile actually comes from the serpentine rock, which is the California state rock. And basically what they do is they mine these rocks down. There's these tiny fibers inside the rocks, which are the asbestos fibers. And once they get mined down, they put those fibers into different building materials to make them stronger, to make them heat resistant. So that's why it was used in so many materials in buildings in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then unfortunately, once they realized it could be hazardous to remove and breathe these fibers in, that's when it became regulated in the early 80s.
Well, that is a great fact. I had no idea that California had a state rock.
Yeah, the serpentine rock.
Who would have thought that this could be, wow, dangerous.
So the state rock basically is where we get our asbestos from. Yep.
Something I learned. Great. So talk to us about APCD. This is a board that governs a lot of the stuff that we do on our end when we're setting up jobs. I hear that term come up a lot. So can you help our viewers understand what that acronym stands for?
So basically it is the air pollution district where, depending on the certain levels of asbestos in the materials that we're removing, have to have notifications. So if they're low levels and depending on the property we're working on, you don't always have to make a notification with them. But if the percentage is at a certain level, and depending if it's a multifamily or a commercial space, things like that will determine if we've got to make that notification with the air district. And basically it's just letting them know that we're going to be doing asbestos removal so they can plan to make sure if they need to send a representative out to make sure we're following all the laws and regulations, setting up properly, they can come and make sure we're doing everything correctly.
Okay, excellent. Now, I've also found that there's some timeline restrictions also from project start to completion. Is there some truth in that where the APCD will put a time frame on jobs?
Yeah, so depending on if it's an emergency versus a planned renovation, planned renovations, you actually have to allot for a 2-week notification. So from the day the permit is filed with APCD to when you can start the project, it's basically a 2-week period. If it's an emergency from water or fire damage, we still have to notify with them, of course, but we can get right in there to get the work done if it's an emergency.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
We have jobs at the time just like, can come out of nowhere. Oh, hurry up.
Yes. The planned ones is when you got to figure the 2 weeks. So
yeah, that always comes back for us. So talk to us a little bit about the containment process and how you guys set that up and what that looks like.
Certainly. So our number one goal, whether it's working in your home or working at a commercial site, is safety, of course. So when we're removing hazardous material like asbestos, we want to make sure the rest of the property is protected. So that's the whole point of the containment setup. Depending on where we're going to be working, we'll put the fake 6mm plastic up to separate the work area from non-work areas. So the containment goes up, everything's sealed off. On top of the containment plastic, we have equipment called the negative air machine that creates negative air pressure with HEPA air filtration, which basically acts like a giant vacuum inside of the containment, which is filtering the air, causing negative air pressure, which keeps the environment clean inside the workspace. No air ever leaves containment, but it can draw air in, which keeps it safe. So if we're working in somebody's kitchen, for example, it's safe for the homeowner to be in the house while we're working because everything's contained in the kitchen, no air is escaping the containment. So if somebody's in their living room and we're working right next door, the containment makes it able to do that, basically.
Good to know that. A lot of times we have had jobs where people will come in and they'll turn the equipment off when the team that's doing the abatement's not there. Is that something that you frown upon? Once your crews leave, if the air scrubber is running, would you prefer that they leave it on, or what's the guideline for that?
I think it's better to be safe than sorry. When the containment is up, nothing's going to be escaping containment. So, until air clearances get done or the job's complete, if it were to get turned off, it wouldn't be a huge hazard to the house. I always prefer that the air filtration stays running, and actually it is supposed to stay running. If it's a job that APCD is on, they actually confine us if the air filtration gets turned off.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I'll make sure we pass that along. So where does all this contaminated material go? Your team's been in there, you've taken out the expected material, it's bagged, it's ready to go. Where does it end up?
So everything goes to a hazardous landfill. So like you mentioned, all of the debris will get double bagged. We put a disposal manifest in each bag that's going to the manifest. So all of the homeowner information, our information is on those manifests. So there's kind of like a chain of custody from homeowner to us as the abatement company. And then everything will get taken to depending on where the job is, of course, it'll go to the most local hazardous landfill. What
type of training do your technicians go through? Is there some certification process that you put them through?
Yeah, so everybody that works for us works directly for us, but they all go through an asbestos training course, and then they also go through a actual, removal training course where they, have to go through a week of training, take a test, and get certified before they come and do work for us. And that certification that they do get to be an asbestos worker has to get renewed yearly. So every year our guys, get recertified to be able to keep doing the work that they do.
And is that regulated by the state? Is that regulated by the county? What's the governing board that requires this recertification?
So the certification that our guys have for us through the state of California.
Okay, so it is through the state. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So if our guys, for example, sometimes being new down here, we have a certain number of crews right now, but we've got a huge labor pool up in the Bay Area. We've actually had guys come down, for a week or two to actually do jobs down here for us. And so they can still use that certificate, whether they're in the Bay Area or down in SoCal. It's a California certification, so they can work wherever, basically.
Okay.
In the state. Yep.
That's a great resource, knowing that you have a big labor pool to pull from. If you have big jobs out here, it helps expedite the work that you have.
And we're growing quickly down here, so we're getting guys on a monthly basis. But it's nice to know that we have.
Yeah, no, it's good to know. It's good for the viewers to see the depth of your company.
Yep.
What message would you give to the do-it-yourselfer? Hey, I've got this project, I've got this popcorn ceiling, hey, I'm just going to scrape it off, I'm going to bag it and deal with it. What would be the word of wisdom you'd want to impart on someone who's considering doing a project like this on their own? So,
my number one thing would be, if your house is built before 1983, that's kind of the general cutoff for testing for asbestos, would be to have a testing company come out to your home, test any possible materials that could contain asbestos, whether it's drywall, old vinyl flooring, old vinyl composite tiles, if you've got insulation around your ductwork, anything that could potentially have it. And you can easily go online, check up, what are household materials that could contain asbestos. There's a huge list that will easily come up for you. But if you do plan on doing any of that removal yourself, to have somebody test it first. There's no way to just look at a material, unless it's old insulation wrap, that white fake paper mache wrap on a duct, that you can pretty much look at it and tell it's asbestos. But if it's drywall, old flooring, that doesn't look any different if asbestos is in there or not. My main tip would be to have somebody come out, test that material, make sure you don't have asbestos in it. If it is positive, then you would want to contact an abatement company like us just to make sure you're not contaminating the house, putting your family at risk, and of course disposing of it legally and the right way.
The right way.
Yep.
Makes sense. So a lot of people will get nervous when we're discussing asbestos in their home, when we're in there to do the mitigation work and talking about the potential to have to test. They get freaked out about the house having asbestos. Should they worry that there's asbestos in the house that's been existing for a while? What should their concern be?
So it's super common for there to be asbestos or lead materials in an older home, that you could almost expect it to some degree. There's no hazard by any means just having asbestos or lead in a material. But during I would definitely recommend, if somebody is planning on doing a renovation themselves, to have a company that can test the materials for them. Take any sample of a material that could contain asbestos or lead, get those tested. If they're positive, then they can make sure that they contact a company like us that can do the removal safely rather than them trying to remove it themselves and take the risk of, possibly contaminating your property, putting your family at risk, and then not disposing of it the way they should too.
Okay, that's great to know. Yeah, it's certainly a concern for many people when
Yeah.
there's just the word alone.
And a lot of people don't realize they have the option to test or know they even should test. So that, is definitely a good tip if somebody's planning on doing any type of renovation themselves.
That's good to know, peace of mind. What would you say separates ERI from your competitors? Why would someone hire ERI versus the next person?
Yep. So we are focused on extremely, good communication between the homeowner, between, whoever we're working with, and, if we're working with same-day restoration or anybody else. Communication is kind of our big difference, I feel like, in this industry. Not only, are we making sure that we're going through the process with homeowners, keeping whoever we're working with in the loop. This actually little pamphlet, Understanding the Abatement Process, is something that we'll bring to all customers. So most of the time, if we're doing a job in somebody's home, it's usually their first time dealing with asbestos or lead removal. So this little pamphlet just kind of walks them through the abatement process, answers a lot of just common questions that they have. So this is, a big key that we like to just get everybody on the same page and get comfortable with what we're doing, because it is a very common procedure and common work. It just can be scary when people hear, the word asbestos and it's in their own home. Another huge difference I find for us is we meet the crews and basically start all the jobs. So rather than, just sending a work order to a crew that's never been to a property before and then have them go and rip up somebody's home, whatever project manager goes out and actually starts a job, they'll actually meet the crew on site and get the crew started as well. So there's a lot of just kind of hands-on work that we do just to make sure everything's done properly, the homeowner is comfortable, and then whatever company, that we're doing the work with as well, everybody's on the same page and in this loop at the same time.
Great. I'm sure that's very reassuring for the clients, seeing that check and balance, and it's really to make sure we're not tearing material out of the wrong room.
Exactly.
Or imagine come back.
And if I'm the one, that goes to the property, initially to walk the job and get the scope, I'll be the one that goes and gets the crew started. So it's a familiar face for the homeowner. They already know me, from the first time that I'm there. So I think that gives them a comfort level as well. Just being able to see familiar faces and, have their questions answered and everything like that.
All right. Great. Well, I just want to say thanks to Bret from ERI for joining us this morning, and we do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy your week.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Bret.
Love working with you
See you
guys.
next time.
The team here at Same Day Restoration would like to thank Bret Vandersnook and ERI for taking the time to spend with us today. Their business information is going to be in the video description. Also, don't forget to click like and subscribe to keep up with our weekly video content. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.